And cue sound.
Marker. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I am Lauren Scott Wilcher and I am about to embark on an 8-month trip around the world, starting in Asia and moving through Africa and Europe. Today we are going to be talking with these lovely humans who are my parents. I'm going to ask them some questions, they're going to answer and talk about me, and I have left it completely open. They'll have to say basically whatever they want, though I do get to edit them.
So true.
So yeah, we're just going to dive right in. Describe me when I was little. What was I like?
First of all, you were adorable. Very, very cute. Lauren was very quiet as a child, mostly because her older sister and younger brother are so very loud that she really didn't have a chance to be loud. But she was also very creative and loved art and drawing and reading. Once you hit about 10 or 11, you read all the time.
Yeah.
And really read a wide variety of things, history and, all kinds of things, Shakespeare. I was a little bit amazed by it, actually.
You decided that it was right for your family and your children to homeschool.
I didn't want to. But I did decide that, yes.
Talk to me a little bit more about that.
Well, it started, I went to church one night and I was walking in the foyer, and on the bulletin board was this article about a woman in our church who was homeschooling, and that was back in the 90s, early 90s. It wasn't so common back then. I just felt in that moment that that was what I was supposed to do. And so I decided I would do it for the rest of that school year. Then 18 years later, I graduated all of my kids from homeschool. And for me, it was just a wonderful experience. I loved homeschooling. I enjoyed learning alongside of you. So, all the field trips for me were fun. The science experiments just made me giddy. I know, it's crazy, but for me, it was just a good choice, and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
I think as a creative person, it was invaluable because I didn't really study or go into textbooks very much until high school. Thinking about growing up, I don't even really remember doing school.
You did.
I know I did. But I remember going on all these field trips and panning for gold and, crazy stuff that people just don't really do. So
Yeah.
It wasn't, here is a curriculum, here is your homework, this is what you have to do, and you're going to be graded on this. It was, let's go learn and explore and have fun.
We had a high family value on learning, not such a high family value on schooling.
Sure.
Right. The beauty of homeschooling was that I could incorporate your creative energy and your interests into the homeschooling curriculum. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. Plug for homeschooling. Did I ever really talk to you about this trip much? When I went to Hawaii, I booked the ticket and then immediately called you.
Yes.
I was I just booked a ticket to Hawaii, and I'm freaking out.
Yes, you did.
I feel like this time I was I just booked a ticket to China.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. Yeah.
I'll
But
put
you
it on
had
social media and they'll find out.
Yes, exactly.
So when Lauren hit her teen years, we noticed that she was very clear about what she was going to do.
Very
She would
clear.
set out plans and start sentences with, I am going to fill in the blank, and she would fill in the blank, and then she would do whatever she said she was going to do.
In my head, I go through these whole conversations of this is the process of going from this sort of nebulous idea to this is the goal and the project. And I tend not to tell anyone what's going on until I'm I am going to do this.
And
That's
let
my
me show
girl.
let me show you my spreadsheet. It
Right.
now has 400 pages, worksheets in it, with information about every country I might go to
Right.
and what options I can choose from. Okay, so you've thought about this a little bit.
So growing up, Lauren was, I thought, going to be the homebody who stayed home until
Yes,
she was
we both
30
did.
years old. And so it was surprising to us when she announced that she's going to New York City and do theater and then tour with the Irish Foot Wigglers. And then even more surprising when she said, I'm going to China and then the rest of the world. Since that transition from homebody to world traveler, we've grown, I think, more and more confident that she can handle herself. We worry about the rest of the world. We don't worry about her so much. So we're excited to see how this goal of world travel turns out. It should be fun.
When you were growing up, you did have an explorer mentality. because you wanted to see all 50 states, and so you went all around the country. I'm not as surprised by her desire to go around the world and see things. She's also very artistic and sees beauty in so many ways that other people, I think, don't see it and don't really look for it. And so for her, I think going around the world is more like a collection of beautiful visions or pictures in her mind that she's collecting, because then she uses those in other ways. So I think her motivation is more than just, I just want to go see these things. That in and of itself is a good thing, but I think it's more than that. I think it's more like, I just need to expand my reservoir of images that then enhances who she is and what she does with that. For me, that would be my take on it.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. More well put than I could have put it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Like you're sitting here talking, I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. That's what I've been trying to tell people.
So we have a tradition in our family that as we watch movies, and we watch a lot of movies, that if anyone mentions or if the particular movie shows a place that we've been, then we high five over Maine or
Hey, Maine. Excuse me.
oh, sorry. And if you have not been to that place, then you're excluded from the high-fiving. So I think Lauren's motivation partly is to be able to high-five herself over places that she's going that we have not been.
Have you guys traveled a lot?
I have traveled a little bit, I think, compared to some people. I've traveled around the United States a lot. I haven't traveled overseas a lot. And I don't really have a lot of desire to go overseas much. Occasionally there's destinations that I get really excited about. So I've been to Ukraine, I've been to Israel, I've been to London.
You've been to Ireland.
I've been to Ireland.
You are much more traveled than
I
I
am much more traveled than you are, yes.
Until next year.
Oh, no. Okay. So where have you been?
So I've been to most of the European countries, Western Europe, and Dominican Republic, Poland, Ukraine, Israel. Where else?
Mexico, Costa Rica,
Yeah.
Canada. I've been to Canada. Have you been to Canada?
Yeah.
Oh.
We went to the other side of Niagara Falls.
Oh, that's correct. That's right. I went with
That
you.
counts.
I went with you.
I was an exchange student to Germany when I was 16 years old. Got a Eurail pass while I was there and did a big circle around Europe. Changed my life. So travel has always been valuable to me.
Very well-traveled family.
Yeah, I'm used to my children announcing that they're going and doing these very adventuresome trips. My oldest daughter went to Medellin, Colombia, when it was, I think, rated the most dangerous city in the world, and she was 17. So I've had some practice
Right.
at letting them test their wings and go do some things. And
As parents, what would your advice be to other parents who are watching either me or watching their children go off and do these crazy adventures?
I think it's important to find a balance between good questions to ask that help your child think through the important decisions, and to ask them questions about how much they know about what they're getting into. Because as you learn certain things, for instance, hitchhiking when you travel, is that a good thing? Well, that's a question you probably need to ask your child to explore. You know, in different countries it may be different, in different situations it may be different, but in general, before they just do something, they need to understand risks and assess risk. So helping them in those ways by asking good questions, I think, is very important. But deciding ahead of time what they shouldn't do can really shut off the line of communication. I've always tried not to shut off that line of communication. I want to know, I mean, there are some things I don't want to know, like the day that you jump out of an airplane, I'm not sure I want to know what's happening.
Right, I'll tell you afterwards.
But I also know that people jump out of airplanes all the time, safely. You know, I'm trying to, at the same time, inform myself about the reality of risks and not allow my imagination to create more fear.
Or the news.
or the news. Oh gosh, the news. Just the Weather Channel is terrifying. But things like, if you find yourself in this situation, what would you do?
Mhm.
It's just helpful for a parent to know that you know how to handle that situation, or you have some options in front of you that you've thought through already.
Mhm.
So for me, having those conversations and having that conversation in a way that's not saying to your child, you better not do this, but more along the lines of, so if you find yourself here, what would be your options? Have you considered this thought? Have you considered that thought? Have you considered the fact that this might occur? Just helping them think through those situations, I think, gives me confidence, more confidence, and also I think helps you as you're trying to think through it.
Yeah, definitely.
Without making you feel like I'm controlling or
Yeah.
telling you what to do.
I feel like a lot of parents are very guarded and, oh, you can't do that, that's scary.
Well, it is scary,
Sure, but you're also
but
willing to
life
be like,
is scary.
Go do your thing.
Right.
Don't die.
Call me occasionally.
Yeah, let me know where you are. Sometimes, maybe.
If we stifle our children from doing what God needs them to do in order to be who they're supposed to be, then we're not really trusting Him.
And we're not loving them well
Correct.
in the process.
So explain that a little bit more. What is that?
Well, if we want our children to always make us comfortable, then we're being very selfish with our relationship, I guess, if you will. I guess perspective is half of it. Just having a wider perspective and always trying to keep that in mind rather than maybe some ideal that I've set up for myself. And that's because I think that's selfish. I've tried to make sure I don't do that. I have to keep reining myself back in at times, but I think God has some amazing plans for each and every one of my kids and each and every one of everyone's kids. And I don't want to be the one that stands in the way.
I think if you parent your children out of fear, then they get warped as they grow older. If you parent them in love, they should flourish. And we don't always love well or love perfectly,
No.
but our intent is to love our children, which means we guard them when we think they need guarding, but we don't squish them. We encourage wise adventures. Our way of loving our kids is to say, yes, give that a shot. Think it through, but give that a shot and see what happens. And part of what happens when you travel is inevitably you have that night where things go badly. You end up sleeping in the rain. You end up in the wrong place at the wrong time and meeting people that scare you a little bit. And those are not things you plan for, but they're normal when you do global adventures. And hopefully they're relatively rare. But they do happen, and those are character building moments, and they're training for larger normal things that happen in life where you reach the end of yourself and you realize this is not what I planned for, but it's valuable to me to learn from this. And if you protect your children from those situations where they have to learn those hard life lessons, then they enter the rest of their lives a little bit less equipped to face those things well.
I'm going to make sure it's still recording.
Okay, good idea.
So, what would be the one thing that you would hope I would gain from this? Or what is one of the things, not the one thing?
I think what I hope you gain from this trip is clarity about next steps. Because one of the things that I see in your life is you accomplish goals, and once the goal is done, then the question is, so what do I do now?
Yeah.
So
I made a whole video about that.
So I think one of the valuable things that will come out of this trip is you'll know next steps, and you'll learn some things and experience some things on this trip that will inform those choices. And without meeting the people you'll meet and seeing the things you'll see, there may be questions going forward that will be answered.
I hope that too. That'd be great.
It's a real privilege to be able to do what you're going to do.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people who would never in their lifetime be able to do it. The fact that you are taking this privilege so seriously and so intentionally, I think, is a really good thing. And I guess for me, what I hope is that when you are finished, that you understand more about why God allowed you to be able to have this privilege. You know, it's a real joy when you look back on your life and you see, oh, that's why that happened, or oh, that's why I had that opportunity. Because now I'm doing this and it's so important in that. God put that all together in a certain pattern, for me to be able to be who I am now and do what I'm doing now. And it gives you a confidence, it gives you a certainty about going forward, it gives you the resources that you need to make the choices that are fulfilling in your life. That's my hope.
And to be clear, we are not helping Lauren financially on this trip at all. She set this goal. She decided to save for it. She saved a considerable amount of money by being very frugal and minimalist, and she'll be paying for this trip herself. And that's one of the things that gives us confidence that.
But you can help out. Patreon.com/Lauren Scott Wiltshire. Go on
Insert
over.
large print and subtitles here. Just wanted to be clear that she's not an entitled young woman who's been given this trip. She has earned it, and I like that.
And I'm excited for you.
And when do you leave?
I leave September 20th. I will get on a plane to Boston, and then I will get on a plane to Shanghai.
And thus it begins.
And then it will begin.
And
8 months.
And then we'll just...
Well, now what?
So how much have you planned the actual travel?
I have not planned much at all. Flying to Shanghai, that's about as far as I get. I have 4 days in a hostel in Shanghai.
So you know where you're staying for 4 days?
I know I'm staying for 4 days.
Okay.
So September 25th.
7 months and 26 days after that. Who knows?
Who knows? But that's sort of how I live life anyway.
Yes.
Like,
One
I
step
don't
at a
really
time.
know what's happening next, but we'll get there and figure it out.
For me, to expect you to have the trip all planned out every single day for 8 months is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
No.
And you would waste a lot of time if you tried to do that, because then you'd end up having to change things. So,
And you create a lot of stress by
right.
setting deadlines and schedules in advance that would be unreasonable when you actually get on the ground.
Right. So I think it's important for people to understand that you've already done smaller type trips where you've had to make these plans. It's not like you just started by saying, oh, I'm going to go around the world and figure it out as I go.
Right.
It's not quite like that.
Yes. And I've done research on places,
Yeah.
and I will continue to do research on places.
Right.
More specifically as I move closer to
Correct.
those places.
Yeah.
And
Part of the message I would send to the rest of the world is, in this time, in this season, this opportunity is pretty special.
Yeah. And you don't have to get like a phone card to call home with minutes on it, and then it would run out in the middle of the conversation.
yeah, traveler's checks and
Traveler's checks.
Oh,
Yes. Oh my gosh, traveler's checks. It's a whole different age.
what do you hope to see coming from this channel, coming from Instagram?
I want lots of pictures, and I want a little bit of information about how it's impacting you.
I want celebratory videos that make us understand what a privilege it is to be able to travel the world, because so few people have this opportunity. And it could be dreary and tiresome, but in the midst of it, I hope you will communicate what a privilege it is.
I can tell you what the hardest thing will be.
Yeah?
Christmas.
Oh, I've thought about that. Part of me was like, maybe I'll just fly home from Australia.
Christmas in our house is sort of sacred.
I suspect you'll find a way to make it special wherever you are, because we've worked hard to make Christmas special. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not worried about her.
Great.
This is where the selfish me comes out. And I say, eh.
Well, thank you
You're welcome.
for
Thank
talking to me
you.
and being willing to be recorded and trusting my editing skills.
I trust you.
Yes. We're relying on that.
We are trusting you to go around the world by yourself, so
Right.
editing skills seems like a small,
Okay,
a small
yes,
thing.
perspective. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you will subscribe and like and share and comment and all of those things. I am also on Instagram and Facebook, and I have a Patreon account if you want to go there, all at Lauren Scott Wiltshire. Patreon, I would really appreciate if you would decide to be a patron. As little as $1 a month allows you access to more content earlier, special things. So it's about a month and a half before I leave. There will be a couple more videos in between now and then, and I hope you stick around and see what happens. Thank you so much. Bye.
And cut.
And